We're just waiting to get things started. Grab your coffee and get settled in. We're going to start in a few minutes.
I feel like I need to tell a joke or something. So, hi everybody. Welcome back. We've got lots of people joining. We're seeing the numbers going up and up as we're watching the participants. It's Friday, it's cold, it's chilly out there, so we're going to give everybody an opportunity to join and probably actually start around 12:05. Um, we've been getting lots of texts and comments from people, and we want to make sure that people don't miss out on this. So grab a hot tea. Um,
It's exciting to see how many people are on.
I know it is exciting. The numbers are going up, and what I'm most excited about is that I know a lot of you that are joining, which is super exciting because I told my son that it's like taking a trip down memory lane. I've got people from elementary school that reached out to me, people from high school, some I'm hoping to get coffee with soon. I've been doing a lot of connecting with the launch of this series. So it's been a really amazing way to start the new year, knowing that I'm connecting with all of you. And I see, gosh, yeah, see people from high school, seeing some people from college. That's all. Oh, and some people from my old yoga studio here. Oh, there's my husband. And let's see. My husband loves to use the name John McLevin. He's on the attendee lists. Hi there, Johnny Mac. Good to see you. My dear friend Michelle. Oh my gosh, everybody. All of you. I'm seeing all of you. I'm super excited. Oh, and some people from Kansas City. You know who you are. Um, so this idea for the series just came while we were sitting around the table one day trying to figure out how can we take all the wonderful information that we offer here at the Wellness Connection and provide resources to our community because that's something we're super passionate about. So um, I'm glad that you guys are all joining. And gosh, if you want to chat, there's a is there a chat button or is it just Q&A?
We're just going to be using the Q&A today, but they can definitely add any comments in there.
Okay, okay. Well, we are about a third of the people who signed up, so we're going to just wait at just a few more minutes. I really wish I would have come up with a joke or two before this. My son is in the office too. He just graduated from George Mason University, and when Kristen and I were preparing for this, we are women of a certain age, and sometimes we feel like we don't know technology as well as maybe we should. And so my lovely 22-year-old son decided to jump in with us and help us today. So he's even given himself the title of tech support. You can probably see him down there. So for those of you that know
Awesome.
Finn, say hi to my cutie patootie.
Why don't we go ahead and get started then, Susan? And hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Staples, and I'm the host of this incredible event today. We're excited because, like what Susan was saying, we've just started this brand new series called Beyond the Couch. And this is the very first one. It's manifesting the life of your dreams. And we're just hoping that 2025 is a year of personal growth and transformation for everyone. And this webinar gets us started in that. So, because this is going to be about, tapping into your potential and aligning with your desires and taking steps. And Susan's going to lead us along the way. I just wanted to give everyone a couple quick housekeeping things before we dive in. So this webinar is being recorded, and if you'd like to revisit anything later, you'll receive a link with the recording in an email. So don't be worried about taking notes and things like that. Your microphones are muted, but there will be a Q&A session at the end. So we encourage all of you to pop your questions into the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. And if you experience any technical issues at all, please send a message to Finn, Susan's son, in the chat. His is cfinnmccarty@gmail.com if you're having any technical issues. But as you can see Susan already on the screen, but I just wanted to introduce her for anyone who might not know her already. Susan McCormick, as you may know, she's no stranger to manifesting because through years of stillness and meditative time, she was able to first manifest the Wellness Connection, where we are today. It's a mental health practice here in Stone Ridge, Virginia. And then recently, Serenity Cove, which is a retreat environment, an intensive retreat environment that fosters quicker therapeutic results. Susan holds a BS in business and marketing and an MS in marriage and family counseling from Virginia Tech. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. She specializes in couples, families, teenagers, and adults, and believes firmly that the idea of adding additional modalities to traditional talk therapy provides quicker and better results. We've seen that happen for sure. So without further ado, here is Susan McCormick. Everybody, round of applause.
Oh, that might be tricky on this.
Oh,
Okay, guys. Oh my goodness. I'm super excited. I woke up this morning a little jazzed, a little excited. I'm here in Northern Virginia. Most of you know I've been living in South Carolina for a little bit. But I am so happy that it snowed. I know you guys don't love it, but I love it. So I am surrounded with some beautiful landscape out here. And Kristen talked a little bit about it. We're getting ready to launch what we're calling our kickoff series. We called it Beyond the Couch because we wanted to take all the gems and all the information and all the things that we're working on here in the office, and we want to take care of our community. We want to share with you the information about personal empowerment and transformation. Oftentimes people come in to see us with these acute issues of anxiety and depression and feeling overwhelmed or with marriage issues, and they're usually in a really tough spot. And then once we're able to help them work through whatever that crisis is, we like to go deeper. We want to figure out, okay, now that we've been able to resolve that, let's really focus on what do you want in life? How can you feel empowered? How can you make decisions that work for your betterment, that work for you? So what I do know is that everybody on this webinar that we've started is deserving of a magnificent life. I can tell you that there have been plenty of times in my life where I've kind of wondered, well, do I deserve it? Because man, I work really hard sometimes, and sometimes I don't get what I want. And then through my own journey, what I've really learned is that things like negative beliefs, past trauma that I've experienced, that they've been blocks to me to not really be able to reach the opportunities and to have the life that I had really envisioned. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how manifesting works because I used it for this webinar. I decided to take a course on manifesting. It really aligned beautifully with the work that I've been doing around EMDR. I'm also getting trained in hypnotherapy. So I'm really tapping into this notion of energy because it's freaking powerful. I can tell you that. But when Michelle and I were kind of sitting around and talking about this series and how to develop it, I'm going to be honest. I think I've told many of you on social media, we were not always great at getting participation, honestly, on these webinars, because I know everyone's busy. We live in a very busy place and it can be hard. But I just, in my mind, and I wrote it on paper and I can show you that when I went through my course, I manifested that I wanted at least 100 people to sign up for this webinar. And I think at last check, when I checked last night, we were somewhere close to 150, which is amazing. We've never had this kind of a turnout. So you can probably hear it in my voice, in my excitement. But that is the power of manifesting. I always used to think, oh, they're so busy. Nobody's going to want to come. No one's going to care what I have to say. And I just decided to try a different approach. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Kristen is my lady who's going to be moving the slides. So I hope that's not too annoying for you guys. But what we're going to do today is basically focus on what is manifesting, right? What is manifestation? What do you have to do to get there? And I'm going to walk you through an actual exercise to get you to try it. We're going to also talk about the roles that your belief system has in your ability to accomplish the things in life that you want. We're going to talk a little bit about energy. That's a word that people kind of think is woo-woo. It's becoming less and less woo-woo, more studied, and there's a ton of research on it. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about what I learned in my own personal journey is that a lot of the trauma that I've had in my life was kind of creating what I would call kind of like energetic blocks. It's like I was definitely destined to do something in this world, and oftentimes I've been really feeling self-conscious about that. But I've always kind of known that there was a purpose for me. But for some reason, things just kept getting in the way. And then I've learned that because of different experiences that I've had, that my subconscious tends to have a belief pattern that isn't helpful. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and why it's important for you to clean your house in that area. And then we're going to be talking about what are the basic principles for creating and manifesting. So next slide, Kristen. So what is manifestation, right? What's important to understand is that I've been a little obsessed with the brain, and I've always trusted the brain, but I would say over the last few years since I've been trained in EMDR, I am really recognizing the power of the brain. I've got lots of clients that are joining too, which is super heartwarming for me. But many of my clients have experienced this ability that when you tap into the power of your brain and you ask the brain to do certain things for you, it actually listens, I think what's going to be important is for you to understand that your thoughts, all those things, when you say, I'm not good enough, or you say, I'm um, fat, or I'm not pretty, or I'm not smart, any of those things that might be a negative belief system that maybe you don't outwardly say all the time, but there's just that little tapping on the shoulder that tells you that. We got to get to work about that because that's going to get in the way of your ability to manifest. We're also going to talk about the notion of mindset. Carol Dweck came out with a great book called Mindset, and I would highly recommend it. I recommend it to many of my clients, but it just talks about that you have to align how you think with your emotions and then take action so that you can attract the things that you want. And we're going to be talking about the law of attraction too. I just want you all to understand that your mind is incredibly powerful and it will create the experiences and outcomes that you want in your life, but you have to trust it. And what I've learned from my own experience and from the thousands of clients that I've seen, that seems to be the stopping block. All right, Kristen, next slide, please. Okay, so what are the basic principles when it comes to manifesting? Number one, it starts with you need to have clarity. What is it that you want? I think one of my dear friends from Seneca is on the call with us. She runs a wonderful yoga studio in Seneca, and she's also a Reiki master and a yogi. And one of these days, I was just sitting and chatting with her one day, and she just looked at me and she's like, "What do you want?" And she just said it so directly that it just kind of stopped me. And I realized that I kind of knew, but I never put clarity over what it is that I wanted. So it was really important for me to start getting focus on that because when you have clarity, right, that focus tends to expand. And that's kind of what I have found when the magic happens. So also, so much of our time is spent, and what I can tell you is that I was spending a lot of time doing a lot of work and not necessarily getting the reaction I wanted. So if I could just have been clear about what I wanted and been specific about it, and done the work of manifesting, I think I could have gotten where I wanted to go a lot faster. It's also really important that you get what we call the emotional alignment. It's allowing yourself to feel the emotions of already having achieved it. When I'm dealing with folks that might be dealing with substance abuse or have issues with smoking or chewing tobacco, different things like that, one of the first things I tell them is that you've got to drop the belief system, right? That you're an alcoholic. You have to drop the belief system that I'm a smoker, or drop the belief system that I'm just, heavy set, and that's my belief system. And because when you do that, it tends to create emotions in the body that believe that what you're thinking is true. And if you feel it, you tend to act like that. So it's really important that we work on emotional alignment with this. The next piece is really important for me because this is something that I find not only in Northern Virginia, it's really universal across the globe that I've been able to see, but it's giving yourself the belief of possibility, trusting that if you want to do something magnificent, that you're more than capable of doing it. And I find that there's two kind of different types of possibility. One is what we call manufactured manifestation, and this is where I think it can be dangerous. And honestly, I think this is what many people do, where we get so stuck in trying to do as much as we can, and we're just working harder, and we're spending more time, and we're not getting the results we want. Well, the problem with that is that it's when we work from that place of what we call control, when we're trying to control everything, is when we get in trouble. Control is one of those coping strategies, I would call it, that can oftentimes get in the way of our ability to connect to people, or in this case, really reach the goals that we're looking to. So the kind of possibility that I'm talking about is the ability to absolutely surrender. Just surrender. Just know that you were born to be. Know that you were born to receive. Know that you are completely capable of doing anything that you want. Okay. So I want you to focus on that ability to just surrender, knowing that it will happen, that when you align your intention with your thoughts, with your emotions, and you start to believe that really good things are going to happen. And nobody should stop dreaming. Dreaming is something that should be happening until we're not on this earth anymore. Okay. The next step then is about taking actual action, right? Being able to do the things that giving yourself the space and time, honestly, to do this. And I'll say that action can sometimes just be manifesting or meditating or doing certain things that allow your body to calm down so you can actually pay attention. Action doesn't always have to be busy, busy, busy and exhaustion. Sometimes action is just allowing yourself to be still, allowing yourself to allow all the noise that's in our body to kind of settle down so we can pay attention to what it is that we freaking want. Like most of us, when I ask them, they don't even know what they want. And then the last piece of this is around gratitude. And I'm going to spend a little more time talking about that a little later. So I'll save that for later. So Kristen, next slide, please. So when we were preparing for this, we realized I could have made a complete class out of this topic today. So I'm just going to allow you to maybe come back to this at some point. And when we talk about manifesting and the areas in our life that we might want to pay attention to, these are the 9 typical things that people talk about. What I would love all you to do as homework is to maybe take a look at these 9 different areas and allow yourself to kind of figure out where do I want to start? There's so many things to do. And manifesting isn't something that once you get to where you want to go, it's done. This is a daily practice. What do I want to focus on today? What do I want to manifest in my life in this moment? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Manifesting is something that takes practice. It takes, you have to be redundant. You have to do it over and over and over again. So I challenge you to kind of look at these 9 different things and maybe pick out one that you really want to work on. And then I want to talk to you about the power of 2%. But one thing I want to also let you know is that because we realized there was too much to pack into a 40-minute, discussion, I want to invite you all to join. We're going to do we're going to take this manifesting your life and we're going to create a year-long group where if you want to join with like-minded people and you want to know that once a month we're going to have kind of a little lesson that we're going to do something similar to this environment. And we're going to have a private Facebook page where you can actually join, where you're going to get help. Kristen and me and Michelle will be monitoring that site. And if there's questions, I'll make sure that I get back to you within 24 hours. But what we do know is manifesting works when you combine the energy of a community. Community is an unbelievable resource to help you get where you want to go. And we want to be your community. We want to be kind of the force, the wind that's kind of blowing you in the direction that you want to go. But to do this, I want to talk about this notion of the power of 2%. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? I use it all the time in my couples counseling when I'm dealing with couples and one of the spouses is like, well, going into that defensive mode and I didn't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, if you could own 2% of this problem, not 50%, not 100%, but if you could listen to your spouse and what they're saying, and you can own 2%, what would that look like? And then the moment that the partner takes that 2%, 2% turns to 8%, turns to 20%, turns to 50%, and all of a sudden they're taking full responsibility. So this notion of accountability is really crucial. But what's equally important is this notion of how interest compounds. When you invest money and you're like, whoa, 7 years later, it's a whole lot more money, right? I've tried to teach my son Finn how to do that at an early age, and yeah, he's doing it. I'm really proud of him for that. The same thing works with energy, right? So I want you to think about to start to really look at your belief systems. What do you tell yourself And what have other people wired into you, right? I want you to learn to do something new. Are you worried about failing, or are you excited to learn, and are you willing to take action today on these things up? I think it's also important. I ask clients this all the time. Do you have a habit of setting expectations and spiraling up, or do you have a habit of setting expectations and always spiraling down? You know, there's a lot of research that says over time we start to lessen our expectations, lessen our desires, lessen our hopes and dreams. We think that with age, those things go away. And I'm here to tell you that is not true, right? I want you all to step up what you think is possible. I want you to dream big and be silly and say, well, I've always had this kind of thought. I've been manifesting all over the place, and I'll in our private group, I'm going to share with you what exactly my stuff is. I want to be held accountable to it as well. So next slide, Kristen. Next slide. Hello. I think we're having a little glitch on the slide shifting. There we go. Okay, so let's understand the science of this a little bit. Okay, you guys, there's so much around this. And some of this stuff years ago might have been seemed pretty woo-woo, but we all know about the law of attraction, right? This isn't something new. I always say to my clients to be really mindful about the energy that you're putting out into the world, because the notion of energy is that positive energy tends to bring back positive energy. So the law of attraction is for every action, I always think of those balls, you know, that go back and forth. For every action, there is an equal or greater reaction. So imagine if you're putting negative energy or negative thoughts, or you're angry all the time. Guess what you're going to get back? In equal or greater. You don't want greater, right? Same thing works. If you're putting positive energy into this world, positive energy into your body, what's going to come back to you is going to be equal and greater. So I want you to focus on that from a simple perspective of science. The next thing is this notion of quantum physics, right? Thoughts, believe it or not, our whole body is energy. When you have a thought, you know, when your brain is thinking something, I mean, how do you think thoughts turn into actual action? You know, I'm thinking I'm hungry, so that means I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to eat. I'm going to have to stand myself up. I'm going to have to go to the refrigerator. I'm going to have to open the refrigerator, open a top. Like, there's a lot that happens. That's all energy. You know, so there's a couple of basic principles in quantum physics that I just want to go over quickly. One is this notion of the observer effect, that it suggests that observing a particle influences its state, right? This means that how we interact with something can change its outcome. So it's why I want you to get into a really good relationship with yourself, right? So your focus, your thoughts, your intentions shape your reality. So I see a lot of folks that when I just take a look at their thoughts, I'm like, no wonder they're struggling. So that notion of observer effect is really important. A second one that I like to talk about is this notion of infinite possibilities. It's through this intentional thought, right, and action that you get to choose the reality you want to experience. And it's kind of, we call it the law of equifinity as well, right, where there's a million ways to get from point A to point B. I mean, infinite. I can't even say millions. It's beyond. Right. And sometimes it's just tapping into what is the path that's best for me. Sometimes it's not the fastest. Sometimes it's not the most lucrative. Sometimes, you know, but if you can tap into it, the path that you take, even though in the moment might not feel like it's the right one, it is absolutely going to get you to a really beautiful place if you're willing to kind of be a little uncomfortable during that. The third place is, I think Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. I thought it was kind of a little kooky when I first heard him speak, but he talks a lot about when you want to manifest something that you're interested in, you have to raise your energy level. You know, they even call it a vibration, right? You have to align to what you want. And I've started using this in therapy when we've talked about trying to heal old wounds. Using things to really focus on where in the energy in the body that you feel it. People feel it in their throats and their chests and their stomachs and their heads. And sometimes I'm like, just go there. And I want you to tell your brain to release whatever tension is there. And I am telling you guys, 100% of the time, they're like, what just happened? How did my brain tell my stomach to stop doing what it was doing? And I was like, it's freaking powerful, but it's energy, right? And you have the ability to shift those things, and the possibilities are infinite. You just have to be willing to take that path. So neuroplasticity is more of a term from a mental health perspective, where your brain actually can rewire itself when you do things like visualization, EMDR. There's so many different modalities. But the brain, if you think about it, I used to call it, I always get this wrong, a wheel wagon rut when you think about it. So a wheel wagon rut is like when your brain takes the same path every day. I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid. I can't pay attention. You know what they are. It creates a neural pathway in the brain that becomes, you can't get out of it. It's kind of like when you take a wagon down the same path over and over and over again, the wheels actually put a rut in the ground and you can't get off of that pathway. Well, neuroplasticity is the ability through manifestation, through EMDR, through therapy, different ways that we can actually rewire the brain. And with somebody who knows what they're doing, thankfully I know what I'm doing on this one, so I'd love to help you guys with this. But neuroplasticity is about us opening up new neural pathways, right? And this notion of neuroplasticity is super important when it comes to manifesting. And so that's something that we would work on. Number two, if you think about this, Dan Savage just did a webinar, gosh, a few months ago, just talking about athletes and how important their mindset is, how important it is for them to visualize their performance at excelling, right? Because what we do notice, you can talk to Simone Biles, you can talk to anybody, when they're in a bad place, they can't perform. When they're in a bad mental state, their body can't perform, even though she can go 4 years later and do a gold-worthy performance, right? It's all about this notion of neuroplasticity, healing the brain, creating neural pathways. And then when you start using another neural pathway, the beautiful thing is that old one that wasn't really serving you, it starts to fill in and it's no longer easily accessible. Okay, next slide, Kristen. Okay, the power of energy. We talked a little bit about this, but I always find it interesting when I talk to folks about energy because they kind of look at me like, huh? Even my clients, when I try and get them to do EMDR or do some of the energy healing that we have here at the Wellness Connection, living in the South, it's always a really interesting concept to talk about the power of yoga and Reiki and all these different things. But it's always interesting to me because the entire universe is made up of energy. How do the planets float? How does our Earth spin? How does my heart get blood? How does everything happen? It's all energy. I mean, doesn't it make sense that energy is probably like one of the most important things for healing? Well, it does to me. And since I've adapted that kind of mindset, I've had exceptional results with my clients. But it's important to know that energy is carried through your thoughts and emotions, right? And they are carried at frequencies. I mean, it's why when you touch something, when you're energetic and it shocks you, like we're made up of energy. And so it's important to know that when you are creating negative thoughts or emotions or beliefs, that you are creating a frequency. That frequency, I want you to think of it almost like a kind of like a radio frequency, that's up there. Like when you're emitting bad energy out there, energy that's bad tends to come towards it. When you're emitting really positive energy tends to come to it. It's almost, it's the way that energy and the wave of energy works. So you need to align your energy to attract positive experience. And you're going to hear this a million times from me. Managing unresolved trauma is what is creating most of the energetic blocks that get in the way of manifesting. So what is unresolved trauma? Everyone's like, I haven't had trauma. If I had $1 for every time somebody told me that, I would be sitting on a beach in Bahamas maybe right now. But we've all had trauma. If you don't think you've had trauma, then I need to educate you on what trauma is. Trauma is just a time where your life feels relatively settled, and within a nanosecond, something changes and it gives you a negative belief system. So this can be when a teacher reprimanded you in class and your central nervous system was like, uh-oh, maybe I'm not smart. And it planted a seed of, uh-oh, I'm not smart. And then the rest of your life, that little seed it's like a magnetic wave that's looking for data to suggest that that's true. And that's what gets in the way, honestly, of manifesting, right? So trauma can be when I can tell you, I've made it part of my genogram, which is part of my research that I do for clients. I always ask, tell me about the first time your heart was broken, because I can tell you there's a whole lot of trauma that's created over that, So trauma, we call it kind of little t's. It can be that you have a parent that is an alcoholic. It can be that your dad was deployed overseas and you were worried every night that something could happen to him. So trauma doesn't have to be this physical, you're hurt kind of thing. So I just wanted to introduce that, to have you clean your house is kind of what I say. It's like really scanning and letting yourself know, what am I carrying around with me every day that makes me feel not my best. And what am I sending out to this world? And the reality is most of this comes from your subconscious. You probably don't even know you have it. And it's just creating sludge is the best way that I can describe it. Okay, next slide. So, negative beliefs. We've talked about this, right? We've talked about how they can limit your potential. We've talked about how it creates these subconscious narratives. And I could ask all of you. You could probably chat in the chat or the questions here. But the thing is, if I were to ask you, what are some of the subconscious narratives that you believe? I can tell you what is a universal one. I'm not good enough. That happens all, I hear that all the time in my sessions. Or I'm not lovable. Or I feel out of control. Gosh, there's so many, right? But every one of us has, and what's confusing for people, it's not like you experience it all the time. Sometimes when I challenge my clients with a negative belief, they're like, no, because usually I'm like this. And I'm like, well, I'm not worried about you when you're 80% in the best version of yourself. I'm worried when you slide down into that maybe 5% of you. You know, I always say that I'm an incredibly confident person. You might be watching me saying, she feels pretty comfortable in this setting. But the reality is, I have a very insecure part of me that sits in the background that kind of, she taps on my shoulder like 5 seconds before Kristen said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go for the webinar. I was like, ugh. You know, we all have it. It's a really universal thing that needs to be tended to. So part of what's important for this is you learning to rewrite those narratives about yourself. You know, Finn is in the house with us. And when I think about rewriting my beliefs, I think about the work that he's done. And, you know, he was a kid that had ADHD. And so he grew up thinking that he was not smart. Now, if you met Finn when he was like 3, he was saying like 4-syllable words. And like John and I were like, we have to go look that up. Like, he's a brilliant kid. But he didn't do well in school. He couldn't focus. He's like an old soul. Like, there was so much that he was working on. But when he finally started saying, I'm going to have the courage to kind of look at where my negative beliefs come from, by the time he got to college, that boy, he just graduated George Mason University with honors. I'm so proud of this kid, and he's on to his master's right now. So it's really important that you learn to say, no, it's not that I'm not smart or that I'm not. No, my brain has a way of distracting often. And if I can learn how to manage that, I'm actually quite smart. I'm quite capable. So then he started moving that energy in the positive way, and his grades just went, they just went great. So there's a lot of different techniques that we use therapeutically that can help people with this. One is self-awareness, reframing, and then I do a lot of EMDR and IFS. So what is that? EMDR is the ability to go back and look at past experiences where you may have experienced little t's or big t's, but trauma is typically stored in the right brain. And when you are making decisions from the right brain, not always a good thing. Most of us want to be able to be making decisions from our left brain. It's where ration and logic and problem solving exist. So when we're carrying around a trauma that's not been properly processed, what can happen is that you have a lens that's quite negative that goes in front of every experience that you have, and that's not healthy. EMDR uses something called tapping. I'll step back so you can see me. Tapping is where you just tap your arms. You can watch a light bar. I have tappers that you put in your hands that people can feel, but it's the ability to activate your vestibular system. And it activates what we call bilateral stimulation, which allows the left brain to wake up. So I can go back with you and we can revisit some really hard experience or some realities of your family of origin that may have been tough. And I can wake up that left brain so that left brain can actually rewrite your narrative. I mean, how freaking cool is that? It is amazing. So IFS, I integrate actually internal family systems. Some people call it parts work. It's a really intuitive way of thinking. I have a part of me that feels really confident sometimes, but then there's another part of me that feels like I'm not good enough. I mean, who doesn't know that feeling, right? So these types of modalities allow you to really kind of differentiate and step outside of those really vulnerable parts, give it a voice, find out what it needs, and then you go about the business of taking care of it. You, the adult you, takes care of you, the younger you. So this is all that inner child work that you're hearing about. Super important when you're manifesting, because if you're not clearing out some of those miswires that your autonomic nervous system has created, it makes this work harder. So in this 10-month program that you're going to go through with us, if you choose to join us, I'm going to be talking about how to kind of tackle some of those tough things. Okay, Kristen, next slide. So I like to, this is kind of a weird thing. I try not to get too woo-woo because I am more of a science gal. But the thing with this that's important is that I've said that EMDR for me and the internal family systems work, IFS, the basic premise is that we are the sum of our parts. So I am my 3-year-old, I am my 8-year-old, I am my 15-year-old, and my husband would tell you that when I'm fighting with him, my 15-year-old part shows up, she shoves me out of the way, and she's like, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like she's just a different person. And so you really need to understand that even though it feels like you, the adult you, is showing up in your life to solve problems, it's often your younger versions of you because this is scary, but we tend to act the age we were when we first experienced that trauma. I'm gonna say that again because that's freaking scary if you think about it. We tend to act the age we were when we first experienced a negative feeling. So if I was 5 when I felt not good enough, every time my husband maybe makes me feel not good enough, which he doesn't, he's a very good husband. But if he were to do that, then I would maybe act like a 5-year-old, right? And my clients are like, whoa, no wonder I walk away from fights with my wife saying, what just happened? That is not me, right? That's what happens. So I like to think of it as that me, the 56-year-old, I always get that wrong, me, the 56-year-old, when I'm doing EMDR and IFS, it's almost like I'm turning around and I'm looking at the younger versions of myself. And I'm reaching out and I'm pulling them into the me now so that they learn that they have mad skills now to solve problems. So that when I'm fighting with my husband, my 56-year-old shows up, not my 12-year-old, right? What I love about manifesting is almost like now that I've gone, you've got to do that work first. I've collected all my parts and now we're together and we're fully integrated and they know that I can protect them. I'm now reaching to the future me, the perfect version of me, the way that I'm Christian. So the way I believe God intended me to be, what he expected of me, why he gave me certain skills. I'm reaching to the future Susan who is fully evolved and she's pulling me forward. That's the art of manifestation. It's taking me where I am and it's taking me to where I'm supposed to be. And guess what? I don't really know where that is. That's that notion of surrender that's important. Okay, Kristen, next slide. So, a big part of what we're going to be doing, and if you decide to join our 12-month kind of series, it's about harnessing the power of visualization. If you're one of my clients on this webinar, this is when we do the safe place. You know, oftentimes when my clients are getting super dysregulated or they're feeling really uncomfortable as we're processing trauma, I'm able to bring them with visualization back to the here and now. And it's quite simple. I have them pick a place that feels beautiful and safe and loving. And it's when they think of it or they go there, it makes them really happy. For my husband and I, it used to be when we were going over the bridge, going to the Outer Banks, we would roll down the windows and stick our faces out. It didn't matter how cold it was, but we would just take in, we knew how it felt knowing we were going to the Outer Banks. And it just allowed all of our bodies to feel like all the stress got left behind. That's what visualization can do. If your mind goes there, your body feels as if it's there, your brain releases the right kind of hormones, right? Those hormones that make us feel relaxed, you know, the dopamine, the serotonin, all those things that we need to regulate and feel like super chill, right? That's what we want to create. We have the ability to manufacture from our brain certain hormones that make us feel a certain way. We also have the ability to manufacture, you know, adrenaline and cortisol and all those things. And the reality is most of us go through life with a whole hefty dose of cortisol going through our bodies, which doesn't allow our left brain to work. So visualization is something that I'll walk you through a little bit later to show you how it works. But it also helps you kind of manage your emotions. And there's a whole bunch of techniques around it, but we'll go into that at a later time. So next slide, Kristen. So the belief system we've talked about, right? We need to first, like if we're looking at it, what's the step process, Susan? Well, first we've got to release the limiting beliefs. Then we have to replace those negative beliefs with empowering ones. And there's a lot of ways that we can do it. And if you're not journaling, I've always poo-pooed journaling, but I've realized now that I'm doing EMDR that journaling is just another way of doing bilateral stimulations. Think about it when you're writing left to right, I'm accessing left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. Bilateral stimulation can be just a walk in the park because when you're walking right, left, left. It's why we feel regulated. So anything that you can create that allows you to regulate is something that's going to work. But meditation is a beautiful tool. Journaling is a beautiful tool. And just waking up and being kind to yourself, block those negative beliefs. So next slide, Kristen. I always love, many of you have seen this probably. I love the slide. If you look at an MRI result of a brain, the one on the left is pretty much how most of us go through life. It looks like, it looks like fire, and it looks like it just doesn't look as calm as the one on the right. And the good thing is with meditation, it's not like you have to do it for an hour like you would a workout. Meditation is simply 10 minutes. This is how the chemistry of the brain changes when you just meditate. You do deep breathing. We're going to teach you how to do that really well in this 12-month program. But that's how quickly you can actually change the chemistry of your brain by simply breathing. Breath tells the brain that you're in a calm state. It releases certain hormones. The whole body calms down. Right? I mean, it literally changes the chemistry. The gray matter increases, the cortical thickness changes, your amygdala decreases. We have a joke in the mental health field that we say, it wasn't me, it was my amygdala. Our amygdala is the part of us that gets us in trouble sometimes. So you want that part of you regulated. But all the good things that can come from it, I've always said, I want to make this more fundamental in what we do at the Wellness Connection, because I would be happy to put myself out of business. I know that sounds crazy. I would be happy to put myself out of business if I could replace what we do on the acute side of reacting to people in crisis. And I would love to more focus on how can we do the modalities that are preventative, and I think our whole country could benefit from that, honestly. So next slide, Kristen. So there is a guided meditation that I wanted to take you through. And I'm thinking right now, based on time, well, let's just do it, right? I don't know how many more slides we have, but if we end here, we end here. I'm willing to stay a little later than 1 o'clock for those of you that want to, but we're really going to do our best to keep it within an hour. But I thought it might be worth for us just to do a little dare to dream exercise, and just for you to say, I felt a little something, or I felt something big, or I didn't feel anything at all. It's really up to you. But I wanted to walk you through like a 2-minute guided meditation, like just something really simple for you to get a feeling of what it's like that we're going to be doing. So breath work is all about, for some of you, if you've ever heard of box breathing, it's where you breathe in for a count of, it really depends on your lung capacity. Most people are like 5, 6, 7, and then you pause for just a short second, and then you exhale. You can always exhale more breath than you can inhale. My mom would tell you that's because I have so much hot air in me. So, but box breathing is simple. It's just you breathe in, you hold it, you exhale, you hold it. I always tell people it does really well when you're doing yoga breath, when you breathe in through your nose and you breathe out through your mouth, almost like you can hear the ocean. So if you want to practice this at home, I thought I would just take you through a quick kind of exercise. So I need you to close your eyes for a little bit. And I'm going to ask you to just start slowing down your breath. I want you to inhale for a count of 5 or 6. I want you to hold it. And then I want you to exhale. And I want you to find your own cadence, whatever works for you. But what I know is I want you to slow down whatever you've been doing, because most of us have really shallow breath. So I want you just to feel the experience of, as you take these nice big breaths, I want you to notice where in your body you feel it. Close your eyes a little bit. And then if you want to, I'm going to step back. I want you to add tapping. So as you breathe in, maybe you tap 4 or 5 times. And breathe out 4 or 5 times. So I want you to keep that tapping if you can. I'll try and keep doing it so I remind you. And I want you to allow yourself to drop into a deeper state of relaxation. Just tell your brain, you know what? For the next 2 minutes, I want to feel grounded. I want to receive whatever benefit I can by slowing my system down. And with each breath, I want you to feel yourself going deeper and deeper into relaxation. When you say it, your brain will believe it. Say, I am ready to go into a deeper relaxation. I want you to guide your brain. As you breathe in, I want you to breathe in all the positive energy that the world wants to offer you. And I want you to breathe out anything that's not serving you, anything that's not working for you. I want you to allow, almost to imagine that there's a healing white light over you. I want you to see it. Some people can see it as God or sun or the universe or what, Buddha, whatever you believe in, whatever bigger power you believe in. But just imagine that there's a ball of energy up above you and it's white light. And I want you to let your brain let go of any negative thoughts that are there. And I want you to ask this light that's above you to guide your way. And from this place, I want you to simply notice that there's a screen in front of you. All of a sudden, it's like a massive screen. It's like you're sitting there by yourself. It's kind of zany, but you look in front of you and you realize, oh my gosh, this is my life. And I want you to see on the screen that it's a movie of your life playing. I want you to see yourself sitting in a chair watching a movie about you manifesting your ideal life. And with every breath in, I want you to breathe in excitement. I want you to breathe in joy. And I want you to breathe out fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I want you to notice on your screen what is happening. I want you to notice who is there. What are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, gosh, I'm proud of you? Oh, I love the life that we're living. What are you saying to yourself? Say affirmations that make you feel good. Just give yourself the opportunity to pretend as if this story is unfolding in front of you and you can't believe it's happening. I want you to notice how good it feels. I want you to feel it in your body. I want you to imagine that you're living this version of your life right now. And if you've gotten off your breath, just come back to it. Breath is a very easy thing to come back to. Come back. Big breaths in, 5 or 6. Pause it. Big breaths out, 7 or 8. And I want you to recognize, wait a minute, maybe this picture isn't what I expected, or maybe it's exactly what I expected, but it's perfect. Just notice it. And you can change anything in this movie. It can be more powerful. It can be more magical. And with every breath in, I want you to make those changes to your life right now. And I want you to breathe in the energy of those changes happening in your body right now, giving yourself permission to dream. And now I want you to take this dream and I want you to upgrade the movie. I want you to know that this is your life. And I want you to know that this vision, as you're upgrading it, as you're making it better, this is already done. It is already meant to be. It is the vision of you in your future that is showing up now. And I want you to notice that feeling. Allow that feeling to rush through every cell of your body. Imagine that it's coming in, that you can feel almost the vibration of this excitement. And I want you to double that feeling. Tell your brain to double that feeling. Do you feel the difference? Now I want you to triple it. This is your future and it is done. Now I want you to take this dream, this vision that you have, and I want you to imagine that it's being fed into that golden white light above you. And I want you to allow that white light to grow. It's so bright now. It's so beautiful. It's everything you imagine. It is just feels different to you. And then I want you to imagine that white light comes down and it hits you at the top of the head. You can almost feel the vibration of this white light. And I want you to imagine that it is going into your brain, all the memories that you've had, and it's getting rid of every negative memory that tells you that you can't, that you don't deserve, that it won't happen. I want you to tell this white light to scan through the brain, release all the negative talk, and just replace it with possibility. I want you to allow the white light to move down past your ears, your mouth, your throat, and release anything negative there that might be getting in your way. And then the white light will go down past your shoulders into your heart, and just allow your heart is beating brighter, stronger. It's surrounded in love. Just give your heart that little gentle massage, and then allow the white light to move down past your stomach, into your hips. And as this white light gets brighter and bigger in your body, allow it just to kind of move past your legs, down your feet, and everything negative is leaving your body, and it's only making room for this white light. And for the next 3 breaths that you do on your own, I want you to imagine that with every breath, the bright light gets brighter and it's changing everything internal to you to make this your life. It is done. It is done. It is done. So when you're ready, I want you to kind of wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. And I just want you to maybe journal about what that experience was like for you. Because this is going to tell me how much blockage is in you guys, if you want to work with us, how much blockage is there because we have to work through it. It's very easy for our brain to say, this is silly, this is stupid. That's conditioning. That is something that we can work on. So next slide, Kristen. So we've talked about you got to take action, right? So manifesting is not passive, it requires action. That's why we decided we have to put this seminar series afterwards because we can't just give you all this information and then not have actionable steps. So each time we're going to be kind of breaking down each of the steps and we're going to help you walk through them. We're going to give you we also want to help you learn to start trusting the universe that we don't always get what we think we want, we get what we need. And that's going to be part of the series as well. Next slide, Kristen. These are the types of steps that we're going to follow when we do our webinar series on this. We're going to help you set clear intentions. We're going to teach you how to visualize and affirm this daily. Very simple. I say that, we brush our teeth twice a day. We should be either manifesting or meditating twice a day. It's the way that we keep our brain clean. We're going to teach you how to shift limiting beliefs, taking action, cultivating gratitude, and then making it happen. Okay, next slide. So gratitude is something, if any of you are big Jonah Hill fans, he is a comedian who worked with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Stutz. And it's a great book if any of you are interested, but it's also a great documentary. But we talk about the notion of how important gratitude is. You hear a lot of people talk about it, but I never understood how it worked so much. But it really is about amplifying positive energy in our bodies. When we wake up and say, even though I'm having a really awful day, I can be thankful for my husband, my son, and this beautiful home that we live in, or this dog that we have, whatever it is, right? When we can focus on positive energy, it has a tendency to attract abundance. And isn't that what we're all looking for? It also helps shift the general, I know it sounds weird, but the vibration, your energetic kind of makeup is shifted by your ability to do it. And I love this picture that Stutz came up with. It's almost like the dark cloud with the sun. And, a lot of people see the sun as our source or as God. It can be whatever you need it to represent, honestly. For me, it means all of the above. But, often when we find ourselves not being grateful, it can really feed our depression. You can see that when you show gratitude, it almost like separates the clouds and gives you access. And the source is where you're going to be getting all of your information, all of your knowledge, all of your inspiration, right? So I really recommend that you start doing some kind of gratitude journal or just making it while you're brushing your teeth. Allow yourself to say 3 things that you're grateful for. Next slide. So these are the common pitfalls. I know we're short on time and I want Q&A, so I think I'm going to skip through these. You guys can read these at your leisure. But avoid these. You need to be consistent, try and be patient, make sure that that you have to really take a look at your beliefs and focus on abundance, not necessarily what you don't have. Next slide. So these are some concepts too that Laura Frey will very easily be able to share with us how to utilize these things. But we're going to be in our 12-month program, we're going to be talking about the power of surrender, why it's important to really let go of any attachment to outcomes. That's easier said than done, but we're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to be talking about connecting to your higher self. I told you about healing past traumas and then reaching forward to your future you. I'm going to give you some skills, some meditations, different things that we can do to help you align to that level of consciousness that will take you to where you want to go. And then there's this notion of energy clearing. So even though I do EMDR and different things, I often send my clients to see energy healers, whether it's Reiki masters or craniosacral therapists or energy healers. But we store all energy in our body. When I'm doing EMDR with my clients, they always feel it in their bodies. I'm like, okay, where are you feeling this notion of I'm not good enough? Ugh, it's right in my gut. Or they feel like they don't have a voice. So sometimes their throat will get really stiff, right? So it's this notion of clearing where we're storing a lot of our negative beliefs so that we can heal, so that we can create a more fluid system that flows better so that we can do the work that we're supposed to be doing. Next slide. We've talked about this, right? So we can probably go past this one, but this is all things we've said. And these are just a recap, right? So if we're to kind of put into four quick bullets, your energy and belief shape your reality. You have to release some of this old stuff and start to heal old trauma. You have to focus on action and gratitude and then commit to something daily. This is something that doesn't happen that you do it once a year in January. This is why we're kind of spreading it out over the year. We want to be part of making sure that this becomes a habit for you. Next slide. Okay, so join our manifesting group, commit to daily practice. And if you can't shake those negative beliefs, call us because we can certainly help you with that. So we want to be able to, like I said, support our clients all the way through the cycle of healing, not just healing problems, but creating opportunities too. Next slide. Okay.
Hey, thank you so much, Susan. This has been incredible. And I loved the explanations of the negative beliefs and how they're holding people back. I wanted to just open this up to questions and answers. So please put those into the Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll be able to get to as many as we can. One person has already asked if you can repeat, Susan, the author of the Mindset book.
Oh, Carol Dweck, Dweck. Normally I would show it to you, but I'm not in my home office. It's old. I used to share it with my sales teams back in the day because, the basic premise of mindset is that to get less focused on outcome and more focused on the growth throughout the process. So, and they really tout all major, like, I mean, you think about all the major athletes that have done incredibly well, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, very people that have really done it. And most of them aren't as committed to the outcome as they are. I know I can do better. I know I can do better. I wonder if I could do better. Let me dream better. Let me dream bigger. Let me do something that's never been done before. It's more around the growth than it is on the outcome. And that's a basic tenet of manifesting that's so important. And we all get that flipped. Think even in Northern Virginia, we all, we want the A's and we want to get in the great schools and we're focused on outcome. Gosh, back in 2016, I think it was, I did a commencement speech over at John Champ, and I had the entire stadium say, we have value and worth because of who we are, not what we do. And that is just something that I try and ingrain into anyone that would listen to me, basically. But it really is about growth instead of outcome. So I hope you enjoy it.
I have a question, just this is my personal question. When you're trying to manifest something and it's not happening, is that because of your limiting beliefs or because the universe, that's not the best answer for your life? Or what do you think?
Wait, say that one more time. I'm sorry, I was looking at a message, Kristen. Say that one more time.
Yeah, if you're trying to manifest something and it's just not coming to be, is that like a limiting belief, or maybe could it be because it's not really what like God or universe intended for you?
I think it's both. I think there's been a lot of things that I thought that I wanted that were really important to me. And then sometimes tragedy hit and it really shook me upside down. And even though in the moment I was like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, I can look back at it and see that sometimes the world gives me what I need for my own development, my own evolution, if you will. So I think that sometimes we think we know what we want, but those thoughts about what we think we want, they're often influenced by other people. Maybe our parents told us this growing up, or maybe a professor said something to us and it planted that seed that then started to grow, but it really has nothing to do with what is meant for us, if you will. So sometimes it is that it's not what you think you want isn't what you want, and sometimes it's that you're not able to get there because even though subconsciously there might be a negative belief system that keeps getting in the way for you. So even though you want to do this thing, if in the core, in the little dredges of your subconscious that you don't even have a conscious awareness of, it can be telling him, you're a failure, you're a failure, you're a failure. So if you have a subconscious that's giving you that message, then your body's going to be like, why bother, right? Your brain's going to hear that, even though you don't hear it. And it's going to be like, screw it. We don't need to do it, right? Because your brain believes your subconscious first and foremost. So that's why the trauma work is so important. What I do is I help people uncover what are those subconscious beliefs that are giving you really crappy belief systems that's getting you stuck, getting you in the way.
Very cool. Thank you. How
So
about,
I
here's a
see some
question.
questions here. I'm going to go ahead and grab from
Oh,
Julie.
you're going to go ahead. You go
Yeah,
ahead and grab.
I can see them. So it's probably easier for me to do that. How do you
Okay.
keep the positive mindset if you are unaware of your higher purpose? Well, I guess what you have to do then, Julie is a dear friend of mine from like, oh my gosh, Julie, how many years have we been friends? 35 maybe. Um, but the way that you keep a positive mindset is that you have to be still. I'm sorry, to find your higher purpose, you have to be still. So I think it starts with you're never going to get your higher purpose if you're busying yourself. What I've noticed is that we've got to switch this thingy. Oftentimes we have 80% action and 20% thoughtfulness, And so if there is a way to flip that, I need you to be 80% thoughtful and 20% action. I think your purpose is going to reveal itself to you. Another piece of that is that if you have trauma that you've not tended to, well, then it's always going to jump to the front of the line. So you might have this positive mindset that just wants to go change the world, but you have a freaking 5-year-old that doesn't believe you're capable and he keeps running to the front of the line. And then your positive mindset just keeps coming into that block of that belief system. So, two things: you have to do trauma work to be able to maintain the positive mindset. You have to be still to be able to uncover what your higher purpose is. Does that make sense? I hope. You can't react to me, so that's kind of tricky. So there's another one. How do you protect yourself from others' negativity when they are those you can't simply remove from your life? Ooh, that's such a good one. Oh my gosh, we could do a whole webinar on this one. Great question, number one. So one of the things that I work on often is helping people protect their own energy. I can't tell you, energy is very contagious. So if you're an anxious mom, you're going to have an anxious kid often. Not always. I can't say always, but often the energy that we have, whether it's anxiety or depression or addiction or whatever it is, that energy is a very contagious kind of thing. And so what I work on with my families is to recognize how to differentiate you from the energy around you. Right? That notion of codependency can be a big problem, that you're only as good as the lowest feeling person in the room. And I'm telling you, that's an epidemic issue in this area. I deal with it every day with all of my clients. And so you've got to learn to get your own house in order, first, because the stronger you become, the stronger your core sense of self becomes. As you're taking care of these old beliefs, you're going to be able to create appropriate boundaries. So I think the best way to overcome negativity is when you are really good at setting boundaries and holding people accountable. And I can tell you, most people don't know how to do that. So that is something that we can teach you. It's certainly something we can talk on the series over the next year. But it's one of those things that you have to practice it, quite honestly. It's something that you have to be mindful. Wow, there's this negative energy over here. It doesn't mean that you're not empathic or compassionate. I can sit there with you, but when I walk away, I'm going to say, wait, my life's good. I have control of the things that I want to do. I have the control over my mindset. I do not have control over this other person. So often it comes from a place of control too. You've got to learn to surrender, not trying to control the things that you can't, and focusing on the things that you can control, which is yourself, your mind, your feelings, your actions, all those things. You can control that. So when you do that, it has a way of kind of fixing that negative energy. Either they are like, whoa, I want what she's drinking, kind of like that Harry Met Sally scene. So people want to know, what is she doing? How can I do this? Or they realize she's not going to tolerate that behavior. I'm going to have to try something different. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. How do you work past not being able to see what you even want? How do you work past not being able to see even what you want? Well, my guess is that I bet you it's in you. So I would challenge you. If you were my client and we were sitting here, I would kind of challenge you. I would say, actually, your subconscious and soul knows exactly what you want. You've never learned to access it. So how do you access it? You said, what is step one? Well, step one is I kind of had it on that slide. I don't want to go back to the slides, but the slides kind of identified it. You have to really start taking a look at what are your negative beliefs. And if you're human, if you have a pulse and a heartbeat, then you have negative beliefs. There is nobody out there. I've been doing this work for 20 some years. I still have a host of negative beliefs that I have to take care of every day. So step one, get your house in order. Find out what you're holding on to. Find out what might be in your subconscious that you don't even know about. find out what is the voice that you hear in your head that sits in the background playing over and over again that tends to make you say, well, maybe we shouldn't, or let's not go there, or stop, right? Those are typically those negative beliefs. So step one is get your house in order. That's what I would say. Okay.
Very cool. Is there anybody else that has any questions, or we'll just keep moving forward? Okay. That's excellent, Susan. Can you tell the group again about the idea of the year-long group and what you're envisioning?
I can. And I want to put up the slides again, Kristen, because I want to tell them about Laura, what we're doing in February too.
Oh, we will. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so this year-long thing, the way that we envisioned it, because I'm going to tell you, trying to get the amount of information in my brain into an hour presentation was challenging. And then we're like, well, if people want to learn more, if you want to do more, then join us for this program. What we're envisioning is that it's going to be a minimal fee, like, we're talking like $15 a month. We want it to be super affordable, like something that will hold you accountable. It has to have value, because if you don't see value, you just won't show up. So we want to have something that's like keeping you going. And we're going to have a webinar like this where I'm going to start giving shortened lessons on each of the phases of manifesting. So I'm going to do a little lesson. We're going to do a little mindfulness meditation. We're going to be doing a much longer Q&A, like what's getting in the way, what are your negative beliefs, and then I'm going to be giving you active ways to start working through those. It's also going to give you access to a private Facebook group. So I find that I've always been a big believer in community. It's why we're doing this in this way, but it's also why we are wanting to create community around manifesting, because energy has a way of when it's one person, it's powerful. If you can get two people behind it, it becomes more powerful, and so on and so forth. Communities have the way of moving mountains, I would say. And so I want to help create that community. So we'll create a Facebook group that allows you to do that. And that's as far as we've gotten so far. So that's that.
We all need to be held accountable, and that's the best way to do it.
Correct.
Um, Talking about in February, just in 4 weeks, we're having Laura Free on our team is going to be doing a whole webinar like this called To Be Loved. Do you want to talk about it's the love, the energy of life? So we want everyone to sign up for that. It's going to be free again, and you're going to get the recording at the end again as well. So we'll be sending that out in the email that goes out today with the recording.
Perfect. Yeah. And Laura is one of our energy healers. She's a really great person to meet. And I ask all my therapists to make sure they schedule time with her, because they all walk out and are like, what just happened? I mean, it's the power of energy is pretty significant. And so I'm excited to see what she has to offer. But we're going to continue to communicate to all of you, all of the series that we have, the topics. We're going to have one a month. So each month we'll let you know who's coming in the next time, but we're going to try and tackle issues like menopause, ADHD. It's a host, but if you have some topics that you would really like us to cover, feel free to reach out to us. Either you can drop it in the Q&A here if there's a topic that you'd really like us to cover. You can reach out to us at our info@wellnessconnectionllc.com. Post it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. We're going to be staying on top of all of that. We want to make sure that the content that we're bringing to you is something that has value.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Susan. This has been incredible today, and I think it's going to set us all up for a manifesting of 2025 and beyond, and really helping heal all those old wounds that are holding us back from the rest of our life. So thank you so much. Without further ado, I think that we are at the end of our time here. And so we will be sending everybody the recording of today so that we can practice all year. We want you to sign up for our group and sign up for next month's webinar. But thank you all for joining today. It's the first step